So Day Shift is a film about vampire hunters. And I'm sure, like, just saying that, like, I know, like, immediate people are going to be like, oh, okay. It's another film about vampires, and they're going to be the vampire hunters. Is this gonna be like, like Carpenter's vampires, stuff like that, or even like the recent Netflix vampire films that we've gotten in the past few years? And kinda. I mean, here's the thing. I think this film mostly works when it focuses on its strengths of action and just like a little bit more of like the camaraderie. Not as much of it works as I would like, but it's surprising how much of it does work. So the premise is that Jamie Foxx plays Bud Jablonski, who's a vampire hunter posing as a pool cleaner, and he needs some money. He needs to get a lot of money to keep his daughter in town, so we have like a lot for him to fight for. So he ends up working with a different vampire hunter. He ends up working with an organization he was cast out of, and he ends up unearthing like a big vampire conspiracy going on within California. So he ends up working with Dave Franco, playing a character called Seth, who's basically a pencil pusher at a vampire hunter agency. Like, he's barely done any field work. He's a bookworm, so of course he's like the perfect match for like Jamie Foxx's character, who's used to improvising and killing vampires. So they have a decent dynamic. It does feel like, I feel like it's almost kind of like forced too fast for them to have camaraderie, because right after like their first like vampire hunt, where it feels like Franco doesn't do too much, they're immediately like connecting. It's like, oh, like, you did a good job, man, for being a pencil pusher. You're great, and they immediately hit it off. And you can almost kind of like feel like the running time, like kind of like like it's like the film's tapping its watch, saying like, look, these guys got to connect, and they got to connect fast. So just quickly as you can. So like they establish like their chemistry fairly early, that they're best buds, that, there doesn't really feel like there's too much to build on, that by the second half of the film, they're pretty much buds. Like they're looking out for each other, and they become like this buddy cop duo as vampire hunters. So like mostly, like at this point, like the film kind of like mostly telegraphs itself where it's going here and what Bud wants and how he's going to get it. And you're mostly just relying on a few great performances and a lot of great action sequences. I will give the film credit. A lot of the vampire hunter sequences are pretty clever. There's some fun and fast action here. There is some cleverness with like decapitation and amputation and blood and guts all over the place here. I especially liked Steve Howry and Scott Adkins playing like this brother duo of vampire hunters. They're kind of fun. Like they don't have as much quirkiness as I would like for them to have, especially when the film really wants you to love how much they share everything, and they kind of have like this weird bond between them. And also because like you don't get as much of them, like you only get like one really cool scene of them like unearthing like a vampire hive and then doing some cool action stuff. It feels like you almost kind of wanted more of them as the film went on, or you kind of wanted to see them, get involved in like a cool death or something like that. But unfortunately, you don't get that. What you do get a lot of is Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg shows up in this film as Big John Elliott, who's supposed to be one of like the veteran vampire hunters who's too cool for this world. So basically, it's Snoop Dogg playing Snoop Dogg. So if you ever wanted to see a vampire hunting film where Snoop Dogg wields a minigun, you'll get that here, and I'll admit it's pretty fun. I do like the fact that Snoop Dogg does get the last line here, and even though it's corny, it's ridiculous, and for a lot of people it's not going to work, I kind of mostly dug it. And then you got some decent performances here, like Eric Lang. Eric Lang, I feel, is real funny as kind of like, the hot-headed vampire hunter chief. Peter Stormare is in his element as kind of like a pawn shop owner who specializes in vampire hunter teeth. So there's some decent performances here. Like, everyone's mostly playing up to their strengths. But at the same time, nobody really, like, breaks out of what they're expected to do in this type of role. Like, everyone's roles are pretty much telegraphed pretty early. Even when there's a twist thrown into the mix, of a vampire transformation from someone you wouldn't expect, it doesn't really change the dynamic that much or the chemistry that much that it feels like it's just like, even when like it's supposed to be like a big reveal, but at the same time it just feels like it's just finding extra stuff for the film to do, and not all that interesting. It's just like, oh, here's something that'll keep the plot going a little bit longer so we can get to like the cool sequence where Jamie Foxx has like a showdown with the vampire hunter queen, played by I forgot her name at the time. Natasha Liu Bordizzo, playing Heather, who is kind of an interesting villain. I like the fact that she's very much trying to be like this vampire who wants to focus on gentrification, but it feels like this angle is only touched on for like a little bit. Like, it just kind of feels like, okay, that's her plan established in the first act, and then it's not fully explored. It's just like, she's a vampire, she's moving in, she's gonna get all the vampires in here and wipe out all the humans, blah 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 blah. Vampires are gonna take over California, so vampire hunters come and do it. So yeah, like the action is good. I would say, like, I feel like that you almost need a little bit more blood and guts here, because I feel like if you're gonna just have a lot of action, which this film does have, I feel like you need a lot more blood and guts for like the vampire hunter stuff, just to make it, just to put it over that edge and have that extra level of cool. And I guess that's my biggest problem with the film. Like, I never felt like it took off in like a big way. Like, all these elements mostly work, and yet there's never a moment where I'm just like, oh man, this is the vampire hunter film on Netflix you need to see. Wait, isn't it just like what was that other one? Night Guard or something like that. I swear there was some other vampire film that had night in it, and it's like, is this gonna be different than that one? No, it's not really. It's like there's some better performances, there's some better action, but other than that, I don't really think there's a lot here that's going to impress anyone who's seen like the multitudes of like vampire films, and especially vampire hunter films. There's not a whole lot here to just like rush your Netflix queue and watch this film right away. It's just, it needs an extra kick to make this type of film work, and it's just not there.